Hi, I'm John DeDakis, and you're one to one with me, and I'm one to one with Judge Russell F. Canan. And he is a very interesting person. He is the author of the just released memoir, Pursuing the Horizon Stories of Justice. Judge Canan was appointed to the Superior Court of the District of Columbia in 1993 by then President Bill Clinton. Before his elevation to the bench, Judge Canan was a criminal defense and civil litigation attorney in D.C., Maryland, and throughout the South. In 1983, he helped establish the Southern Center for Human Rights in Atlanta, where he represented prisoners on death row. Judge Canan is the former presiding judge of the D.C. Criminal Division and chaired a committee that studied wrongful death convictions and proposed reforms. And we'll be talking about that a little bit. And in addition to his memoir, Judge Canan is a co-editor and co-author of the book Tough Cases. Judges tell the stories of some of the hardest decisions they've ever made. So, Your Honor, thank you very much for being here. And what's the toughest case that you ever had to decide?
Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate having this opportunity to talk with you and be here on this program. I guess I first should have a full disclosure, which is that John is one of my teachers, and I've taken a couple of his classes at the Writers Center, and he's helped on this book in terms of editing most of the chapters, actually. So if you buy the book and if you find any errors, you know who to blame.
That's right, Russ. You have to blame the judge. Thank you, though.
Sure, and I'm also a big fan. I'm the John DeDakis fan club. I've read 2 of the 5 novels on the Lark Chadwick series, and I'm a big fan. I've got the third one now. I'm reading them in order. I know I should be promoting my book, but I'm going to give John a big shout out here.
Thank you. Look at this. Holy cow. Yeah, and any mistakes in there that have to do with the judicial system, I take full responsibility.
All right. Well, if I find them, I'll make sure you know about them for sure.
Fair enough. Well, thank you. But let's talk about, you're now a writer and a published author, and so obviously your first book is about tough cases, and you worked with a couple of other judges on that. But I mean, the thing that you write about mostly right now is the difficulty or the difficult decisions that are all the gray area kinds of things that are involved in the criminal justice system. So what do people have misconceptions about what a judge does?
I think in some ways they do, in terms of just thinking that a judge is so politically oriented one way or the other that they can just pretty much do what they feel is right in every case, where in reality I think judges are very circumscribed, and while of course there are some judges who are not good judges and don't follow the law, I believe the vast majority of state and federal judges are men and women of integrity and decency and do their best to follow the law and not necessarily make the law. I mean, we're talking about trial judges here, the appellate judges who review trial court's decisions. They have more leeway to change the law, and that's part of their function. But trial judges are called upon to follow the law and interpret it, and follow the law and the facts and try to make the best decision in each and every case. And so in asking about my toughest case, which is probably a good way to introduce the present book, Pursuing the Horizon Stories of Justice, this really came about at a dinner in our favorite Italian restaurant in Washington, D.C., where myself and 2 of my colleagues, we were talking about our toughest cases. And at the end of the day, we came to the conclusion that there was very little out there for the general public to essentially get a ringside seat to what judges do and how they do it and what the decisions are. And we thought that it might be of value to publish a book told from the trial judge's viewpoint. Of course, the problem is, 1, we hadn't written anything, and 2, we knew nothing about the publishing business. So we took our time and wrote 3 chapters. Each wrote a chapter, and we passed them around. We edited the chapter some, And we came to the somewhat modest conclusion that we thought they were actually pretty good. And from there, we thought, well, maybe we have something here, but we knew nothing about the publishing business. So we called some friends of ours in journalism and in academia, mainly in law schools, who had published books, and to get some ideas. And Professor Angela Davis of Washington College of Law at American University read our chapters, and she liked them, and she passed them along to the New Press based in New York. And it's a nonprofit press. It's fairly large. I think they publish about 30 to 40 books a year. They're somewhat considered to be like the NPR or the PBS of publishing. And Professor Davis sent our 3 chapters to the boss, the executive editor of the New Press, Diane Wachtel, and much to our surprise, a couple of days later, we got a email from her saying, "I love these stories, let's talk." And I'm despite the fact that I know nothing about the publishing business, I'm aware it's very hard to get a book published. And all of a sudden, we're talking to an editor who's interested in publishing our book. Our initial thought was that we would just recruit judges from our court, the Superior Court of Washington, D.C., sort of life inside an urban court and all the stories that are there. But Ms. Wachtel thought that the book would be more dynamic, I believe was the word she used, which I've come to learn in publisher speak means more marketable, if we went out and saw judges from around the country. And so that's what we did. We recruited judges, some we knew of. From around the country, we wanted a diverse group of judges from all sorts of backgrounds and histories and cultures and different kinds of cases. We didn't want it to be all about criminal cases at all. And the cases that your audience may be aware of would include the Elian Gonzalez case in Miami, Florida. Elian was the young boy who came ashore with his mother from Cuba, and she tragically died, and it became an international custody battle over whether or not he should be returned to his father, who still lived in Cuba. That was Judge Jennifer Bailey. And then another well-known case would be Terry Schiavo in Clearwater, Florida area by Judge George Greer, who is really one of the heroes of the book, in my view. He had to decide whether or not it was appropriate to terminate life support for Terry Schiavo, who had been in a persistent vegetative state for many years. And her husband, who stuck by with her for every type of different care, finally decided that Terry, would not have wanted to live this way. And many people may remember that case became a bit of a cause célèbre and became, in my view, one of the beginnings of the social media revolution, and became an international case. John Paul II got involved, the President of the United States, the Governor of Florida, all seeking to stop Judge Greer's decision, which he stuck by, despite the fact that he received numerous death threats and had to leave his home and accept 24/7 guards for months on end. And probably the worst thing for Judge Greer would tell you that at the end of the case, he was a longtime member of his church. He was married in the church. He taught at the church. He coached basketball there. And he was advised by the pastor that it would not be well for him to return. So Judge Greer became, in many ways, a hero to all judges who stood by and stood fast in the face of unbelievable pressure to do what they believed was the right thing. The other case that the audience may know of, has been in the news actually fairly recently, was the Scooter Libby case, who was the chief of staff of Vice President Cheney, who went to trial for perjury and obstruction of justice. And Judge Reggie Walton from the federal court, tried that case. Also had a lot of political aspects to it. The rest of the cases, some are well known in the local jurisdiction, some, like my case, not known at all. They're custody cases. We have judges from Houston, Texas, and Los Angeles, California, Seattle, Washington, we have Chief Judge Allie Greenleaf Maldonado of the Little Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa Indians. In her book, her chapters, Tribal Justice for Salmon Running, and she talks about using tribal concepts in order to try to heal a defendant who ordinarily would be going to jail, and using tribal concepts in a drug court atmosphere to try to prevent that, save that person from going to prison. We have two judges from Minnesota, but one of the judges, Ed Wilson, was one of the first international judges in Kosovo after the genocide over 20 years ago, and he went to help establish the legal system after it all collapsed. And we have Judge Liz Gonzalez from the Bronx also talking about in her chapter, A Quiet Grief, when you do everything right, you do everything that you possibly can do, and the system does everything you possibly can do, and still an unspeakable tragedy occurs, and what the effect that had on her. So we had, I think, a very diverse group of judges, and after writing our chapters, it kind of inspired me to keep going. My chapter was called Rough Justice, and it deals with the age-old problem of what to do in a case, and do the ends ever justify the means if the ends are just, and should a trial judge bend the law, skirt the law in order to achieve what really is a just outcome, indeed what everyone thinks is a just outcome. And that to me was the toughest case, because I was called upon during a jury trial in order to avoid mandatory minimum to set things in place so that this defendant, who I would have found not guilty in a second, but the jury was poised to find him guilty, and thereby sending him to prison for at least 5 years. And he was 40 years old. He had no criminal record. He was a working man at the local Safeway. He was a single father of 2 teenage daughters. It would have been a catastrophic result. And so that's why that case in and of itself was really my hardest case, in skirting the line, maybe bending the line to achieve justice. Do the ends justify the means? Judges take an oath to follow the law, and that's an oath I take very seriously. And I never ever had knowingly violated the law, and here I was faced in a situation where I knew I was kind of going to the line, if not crossing the line, in order to achieve the right result. Hi, John. You still with us? Well, I don't hear John DeDakis anymore. I could go on, but let me hold off for a second. John, are we having technical difficulties here? Hi.
I don't know what happened. My internet just, I've got an internet signal here, but for some reason it just died on me. This has never happened before. So if you don't mind, I'm rebooting my computer. I'm not sure what the problem is, but I think it's with the host for the program. And so what I'm going to try to do, if you're agreeable, is to reschedule it for like in 15 minutes or whenever I'm up and at 'em.
Okay.
If that works, so that we don't have to, so that we can still keep the idea alive. But if there's still, it could be there's a bad cell thing, there's a bad internet cell or something that's causing a problem. And if that's the case, we can try to reschedule. But I think that if we reschedule it for just about 15 minutes or so, we might be able to, get this back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a new link, and so I'll email you the new link, and we'll try that.
Okay, so we're off now, right now, as far as we know. Yeah. Okay, and so what? You contact your folks on Facebook and let them know we're going to do it over again. We'll start from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I've got time.
Sorry.
No problem. All right, so I'm going to just get out of this, and then you'll send me the new link, and I'll get back on.
Okay.
All right.